Recognized as one of the most progressive dairy farms in Wisconsin since the mid-1960s, Normie Lane Farms in Chile, Wisconsin has a long history of not only leading in the business of dairy farming, but also leading an entire industry forward, from engaging with the community to advocating for policy. The value of relationships is one that the late Jerry Meissner passed on to his children and grandchildren. And today on the Uplevel Dairy Podcast, we are sitting down with the third and fourth generation of the Meissner family, Josh Meissner and his son, Emmett, to learn about the legacy and resilience that drives the next generation of leadership and growth at Normie Lane. This episode is powered by Nedap. Nedap is future-proofing dairy farms by revolutionizing cow-side care through technologies and activity monitoring, cow locating, milk metering, and identification. Josh and Emmett, I'm really excited to be here to get to sit down with you guys. For one, because I've known your family and your farm for a long, long time. In fact, some of my earliest memories in my own dairy career involved being in some spaces and places with your dad. And the leadership that he was providing for not just your farm, but really across the industry. And you're carrying that on, not just on the dairy, but also at large as well. So it's an honor and a privilege for me to finally get out here to sit down with the two of you. So thank you for having me, first of all. So Josh, I'm going to start with you.
Okay.
How did you get your start in dairying?
Yeah, so I am a third generation dairy farmer, born and raised right here. Grandpa and grandma started the whole thing back in the 40s. Second generation was my dad and uncles and aunts. Everybody worked on the farm back then, and built it up to kind of what I knew growing up, 350 cow dairy that I worked on when I was little. And through the years, we maintained that. We were always, Grandpa was always very progressive. Built a milking parlor in 65, freestall barn in 75. Long story short, I went to college and graduated in 98, and we started our big expansion into the third generation at that time.
Yeah. And you've been here ever since, huh?
Been here ever since. Yep. I haven't gone far.
Now, you went to college, but you went to college for business, right?
Yep. Just got a business degree. Dad and I decided that, that was just as valuable, if not more, than an ag degree. Wanted to play football also, and lacrosse was an attractive football school at that time, so that was part of that decision. I remember having those discussions with Dad, and he was perfectly fine with it. He said, "Yeah, I agree." He said, a business degree and just the college experience in general, is, as we know, is valuable. So yeah, that just didn't feel the need to do a full blown ag degree of any sort.
Yeah, and did you play football then?
I did.
Lacrosse?
Yep.
All 4 years?
3 years. Yeah. We actually won national championship in '95, so it was a great experience to be part of that team and that culture. So.
Do you have a ring?
I do. Yep.
Oh my gosh! We'll see. We gotta check that out later. So that's really cool. So I didn't know that about you. So
Yeah.
you were a champion collegiate football athlete. How
Yep.
cool is that?
Something like that.
Yeah. Wow. And so, okay, so we have such a privilege to also have Emmett with us today too. And so, Emmett, you came into a dairy that from the early days had been extremely progressive. So as you said, 1965, there's a milking parlor here. There weren't a ton of those in Wisconsin, let alone in central Wisconsin, I'm sure, at that point in time. And progressiveness was something that was a leading value of Normie Lane for all of that time period. That's what you came into as a kid and now a young man, coming back to the dairy. Did you always know you wanted to come back here?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like you said, the dairy looked a lot different when I was a kid versus when he was. But very fortunate to be able to live the life I am. And yeah, it was never a question for me, I guess. It was always kind of just something that was going to happen. I got involved doing different things that, whatever a kid can do.
When you were growing up, where did you spend your time on the farm?
Nothing too specific, I guess. Yeah, I didn't have to be milking cows when I was a kid, but I did a lot of different things. Earliest memories involve Grandpa milking at the hospital parlor up there, milking fresh cows, and in the mornings I'd walk over there. I grew up in that house right there, and then moved over to that house, so I haven't went too far either. I was able to milk cows with Grandpa, move calves. That was something Dad and I did for a long time when I was a kid. Some of the first chores that I had to do, but no, just kind of done a little bit of everything over the years, and evolved into wherever I can add the most value.
Yeah. So you said you didn't go far, with where you are living in proximity to the dairy here. However, there was a time when you actually did move away for a little while and get some off-farm experience. So tell us what that path was like, because you went to some pretty cool places.
Sure. Yeah. I was lucky to do a lot of cool things so far. Started at Western Tech in La Crosse. I did a 2-year ag business degree there. From there, went down to New Mexico, did the U.S. Dairy Education and Training Consortium. I have a big name, but yeah, I had spent 6 weeks down in Clovis, New Mexico, at the dairy course down there, and had an amazing time. I would recommend that to anybody. It's a different world of dairy down there than I was used to in Wisconsin, but saw a lot of cool things and met a lot of cool people, and it was definitely worth it. And from there, got back home late summer, and that winter of 22, moved out to North Dakota for a year. I spent a year near Bismarck, North Dakota, working on a beef and buffalo ranch called Blackleg Ranch. In Bismarck, they do a whole bunch of different things. They have beef, buffalo, they do custom grazing, they have a wedding venue, a brewery on site, a hunting outfit where they do upland and waterfowl hunts, and a very, very cool operation. Extremely lucky and grateful to have been able to go out there and spend time with those people, and learned a ton. So
Wow.
that was it was kind of an expectation for a long time that I had to, Dad kicked me out for a while and said, go do something else for a bit, and that's where I landed. So I'm extremely happy with how it turned out, and I would recommend that to anybody growing up and doing in a similar position, to go and experience something else for a while.
Yeah. So how important was it to you for Emmett to get away from the home dairy here and go have some experiences in dairy with the consortium, but also not in dairy out in Bismarck at that outfitter and ranch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was we actually have it in our bylaws. It's a family rule now that you have to go off and work off site for a year. And he had some different options. He's he had gotten into video a little bit, and he's a hunter also. So he talked about some other things, like even further out west, Montana, and maybe a hunting guide. Some of those options. So it wasn't a requirement to be in dairy. It was just it was just an experience requirement. Do some other things. Be a part of something else. Learn how to work with other people.
So from those experiences, Emmett, what was the most valuable thing that you learned? Not just skills wise, but really about yourself.
Yeah, a big one was I was so used to, we have a big family. We always do, there's a ton of people around, and you go out there and it's a kind of a culture shock to not have any of the things you're used to. And one of the bigger ones is just being on your own. When I was back here, you're with people all the time. You can't figure something out. Ask this person, call this person, get answers right away. And out there, I was alone quite a bit and had a lot of responsibilities that were kind of go and figure it out. So that was maybe a big piece of it, was not having someone to fall back on, and kind of had to figure it out yourself and learn how to do it on your own. There was a couple days where I had a 120 horsepower 4-wheel drive tractor that I couldn't even drive down the road. Got my truck buried up to past the doors and couldn't get the tractor to it.
Wow.
Yeah, the only way, I lived about 3 miles away from the main ranch on a feedlot, and the only way to get up there for about a week was on a snowmobile.
Wow. And what got you through the hardest days?
I don't know. My girlfriend was out there with me, so that helped a lot for sure, to not be completely alone. Our nearest neighbor was about 4 miles away, 3 miles away. If I was on my own completely, it would have been much harder.
Yeah. And I'm guessing cell phone and internet service isn't stellar
Nope.
out there.
Nope.
Wow. So you brought a lot of experience back with you to the dairy here, but really a lot of just personal growth and independence too.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about getting out and doing whatever it is, XYZ, just being away from what you're used to and getting to be more comfortable being uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, what have been the biggest challenges that you've faced so far here? So I'm going to revert to your dad first. You've been here for a while, a little bit longer than than Emmett. So when you look at your career as a dairy farmer, what's been some of the biggest things that you ran into, challenges that you've had to overcome here?
Geez, where do we start? I think for any business, it's change, right? It's changing and evolving. Probably the biggest single thing that I went through that is not unlike a lot of other farms our size and families like ours is family business challenges, right? So we had our share of those. Yeah, a couple brothers that didn't get along and having to kind of witness that and work through that, and fast forward a little bit, and then Dad is diagnosed with cancer, and pretty soon, ultimately, we ended up going from a number of farm family owners to down to one before Emma came back. So a lot changed in my world for a few years there, going through those challenges. So yeah, by far that's probably the biggest personal challenge here that I went through. But yeah, things change, life changes, and fortunately we're in a really good place to move forward in a good way.
So was there a point in time where the vision became really clear of where Normie Lane was headed?
Good question. The vision was it was clouded for a while because of those things. I think the vision became really clear as soon as I knew that Emmett was going to come back here. Like I said, there was so much change in there for a while that it was hard to have that clear vision. It was hard to know what for sure the future was and what that looked like. And now, after a while, you have a clear head and you can see things better. And it took a while, but yeah, after Dad's death and then Emmett coming back was, it all started to clear up at that point.
Yeah. That's a lot of challenge, a lot of hard stuff, and a lot of change. And so for you, Emmett, now you've been back here on the farm for how long?
About a year and a half. Yeah.
A year?
Back, yeah.
Yeah, a year and a half. What's come up for you? What challenges you these days?
One of the bigger ones might be, I've been here my whole life, doing XYZ different things, and the size we're at, you're fortunate enough to be able to bounce around as a young kid and do a lot of different things, but I never really had a set role, didn't need to do any certain thing. And coming back, it was kind of the same way. We have this place runs as it did before I came back, and there's no need for a new role, or I guess to fill an existing role, and figuring out where I can add most value, I guess, has been a big, not a struggle, but something that's taken some attention and something that I think about a lot. I love all of it, which helps. I like bouncing around and doing a bunch of different stuff, but yeah, figuring out where you can be most of value and putting yourself in a position where you are able to learn the most from all the rest of the great guys we have around here as well.
So what do you think is the greatest value, some of the greatest strengths that you have?
I don't know. I guess we're still figuring that out. I like the people side. I love, working with different people. I have great relationships with all the managers and all the guys here. I enjoy doing it all. So that helps. Right now I'm the young stock manager. So I'm working with our herd manager, Matt Flink, on most of the young stock stuff, taking some of that off his plate for him. I enjoy that.
What do you think the greatest strengths are that Emmet is bringing back to this business?
Emmett's always been mature over his years. He's always had a good understanding of people, adults in particular. He's always been an old soul. Most of his family would say. So that's been a big asset to him, for him. He understands things pretty well. One of the struggles that a lot of farm families have with the next generation coming in is the employees. Just like he said, how do you work in? It's intimidating. It's a big deal. So how do you work into a farm family business when you're the new kid coming in, the owner's kid, right?
Yeah.
So, but Emmett's done a tremendous job of that himself. I haven't had to worry about that part of it because he's always had the respect of everybody here. And it's real exciting to see him grow as quick as he has so far. And he enjoys being a part of everything. And I don't try to keep him out of anything because he loves doing all of it. So that's going to be it's a big part of who he is, and it's going to be a big part of his success going forward.
So you're not afraid to do the hands-on.
No, still love doing that stuff.
Yeah. And you love the people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you speak Spanish?
Trying to get better. That's one of my goals this year, a little bit. So, but yeah, I think that's pretty important to be able to do that. We have a lot of these guys here that are learning English, and it's our responsibility to try back. So, yeah. And I don't have any excuses because I can go out and talk with them every single day. So,
so is that what that path looks like to learning Spanish? Is it just having intentional conversations with some of your crew here, or are you doing something beyond that to learn those skills?
So I took a bunch of years of it in school, back in high school. I'm also I've tried to do some of the online courses and stuff, and they help a little. But yeah, I have a perfect opportunity to go out and be involved and use it every single day. So there's no excuses there. But I just, like you said, you got to be more intentional about it and make sure you just do it.
So to put a few of these pieces together, when you take that time and have the conversations with your team, that is really you learning Spanish, but also connecting with them. Do you think that has helped with that integration that we talked about of you coming back into this business? Like, you're spending time with employees, you're getting to know them, and you are showing them that you're willing to integrate into their style, not just expect them to adapt to you. Do you think that's helped with this transition of you coming back to the dairy, from growing up as a kid here to now being in more of management?
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. Like I said, I love the great relationships I have with all the guys here, the managers here. But sometimes the Spanish-speaking guys you don't connect with as much because the language barrier is a big deal. But you can't really get to know anybody if you can't talk to them. So yeah, I think it's pretty important for us to at least try back.
Yeah, well,
and they appreciate it
for you, right? Good for you for taking that step and doing that. And so you mentioned earlier that one of the biggest challenges that you've been through in your career was losing your dad. How did that force you to change as a leader here? He was a pretty profound man.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah, I'm a lot like him for sure, and that's obviously a good thing. But the change, it's a big hole to fill, right? Not only in the ownership side and the leadership side, but just the relationships that he had with everybody around here. You're not going to replace that, right? So I do my best to be who I am and to lead, like I do. But yeah, it was, like I said, big hole to fill for sure. But we're in a good spot to do that.
So with that in mind, how would you describe your leadership style?
Maybe ask Emmet that one. So I'm, I would say I'm more of a quiet leader, lead by example. I definitely try to empower people. Leadership is a big deal of what we do, and that's kind of where we're at now. I'm trying to not only lead myself in leading the business, but trying to develop that next level of leadership with our people, and coach that along the way. So big part of my focus for sure.
So how do you do that?
Well, takes a lot of intentionality, a lot of work. We've worked a lot here internally with communication, with our teamwork. Always trying to build our culture. Always trying to do our best to stay on the front foot and know what's going on, be on the same page on everything. So we've come a long way in a lot of departments there, and the team's been great. We sit down weekly and have a management meeting. Emmett's involved in those as well now. So yeah, it just doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of work, and we've got a lot of good people that have grown a lot. That's really rewarding.
So you're building up leadership and really putting the focus on that. And so for you, Emmett, how are you developing your own leadership now that you're back and a part of this business for the long term?
Sure. Just to maybe give Dad a little bit more flowers too, like he said, definitely an extremely quiet, or not extremely, more quiet than maybe most others. But Dad's one of those guys where, when he speaks, you listen, right? And I can say with high certainty, there's a lot of our older team members here, or more long-term team members here, that the reason they've been here long-term is because of Dad and because of Grandpa and because of the culture that they built here. So that's a pretty awesome thing. I think a lot of the guys would agree. I guess we've always been pretty open. Something that we're maybe learning more about as we acquire the second site and see how, or anywhere where you can see how different people do things. And not to say we have it all figured out by any means, but the communication is always very good quality, I guess. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of tension usually, or maybe ever, but I think a lot of us have maybe a little bit more than just business relationships. We're always talking about personal stuff, and a lot of the guys have been here a very long time, so we all know each other pretty well. And very lucky to have a team as close as we are, because that's a pretty big piece of it.
And you just touched on, Emmett, the second site. Mm-hmm. You recently got into a position to be able to have another site, and it kind of just happened. So tell us a little bit about how that all came to be, and how Normie Lane now has a second site a couple of hours away from here.
9 months ago, I guess, we officially acquired another dairy 2 hours away, which is kind of crazy. I was approached by Jim Kuselik of 4 Mile Creek Dairy, and all the stars aligned, and it fit for us. Our management, our people, were ready. That was probably the biggest thing. It fit with the business, it fit with the cow numbers, it fit with our flow, but if the people weren't going to be ready, it was going to be a stretch. So that was the thing that I was most excited about when I first realized that this was a possibility. I went to all my guys and I said, hey, this is what we're looking at. What do you think? And they all said, when do we start? So it was really powerful, really cool how that was all of their, response to it. There was no pushback. There was none of that. And I kind of knew that would be the case, because I knew we were ready. I knew the guys were ready for a change, for growth. But, hearing that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like that, 6 months later, we were into it, and we were moving cows back and forth. We're calving all the animals here right now in Chile, and trying to keep that site, just milking cows. So yeah, Jim is up there, Jim Kuselik, and his son Alex. Alex is on site. He's going to be the full-blown operations manager up there. And all the employees stayed put. They got a good group of people, good working dairy business that is now part of Normie Lane. So so really, really cool stuff. And it's been, like I said, it's only been about 9 months, but a lot of work has been done since then.
Is there anything, if you had to do this over again, anything you would have done different in let's call it the last year, between when conversations started, things came together, and up and running till today?
Yeah, there's not much, Peggy.
Peggy, about 2 hours closer to home.
Yeah, a little bit closer would be fine. 2 hours isn't bad, but I wouldn't want it a whole lot further. I knew Jim a little bit before this. We went to we started at the same heifer grower up in North Dakota. That's kind of when I first knew Jim. And then we run into each other at industry events every once in a while, but didn't know him real well. And yeah, we started talking and just kind of hit it off. We both kind of were after the same thing. It was a really good business structure for him, the way we did it. And so that part of it felt really good from the beginning. Maybe a little more being hands-on from the get-go maybe would have helped with some of the managers, maybe not having quite so much trust in what was happening with the people up there. They were doing a good job, but there were some things that we probably could have went in and changed earlier, but we didn't want to disrupt too much. There's that fine line there. So yeah, no, it's been a great experience for us overall, for sure.
So how have things changed here at the home farm? What's changed in your day-to-day here?
So this facility, little more pressure, obviously, put on this facility here. All the dry cows are here. So 200 less milk cows here, 200 more milk cows up there. All the dry cows, all the pre-fresh, all the maternity. And that was one of the big parts of the whole deal, was that we were able to take on that extra volume of fresh cows here in our transition facility that we built in 2007 without any capital into the whole project. So that was a big part of the attractiveness of it. Obviously, more calves. We're putting up a couple calf barns this summer to accommodate the extra calves that we all of a sudden didn't have room for. But yeah, it's our people, like I said, took it on head on. They, obviously more fresh cows, more work in that area, a little faster tempo with the maternity area. But yeah, everybody was up for the challenge. I wouldn't say we missed a beat. Fresh cow health has been great. Calf health has been great. So yeah, it's kind of flowed well.
Yeah. So when you talk about health, I know one of the things that I saw when we were out walking through the barns a little bit earlier is the Alta Cow Watch monitors that you have. And so just speak a little bit about bringing technology into this business and what it's meant, not just for day-to-day here at the home site, but now with that additional site, how that has integrated and what you've been gaining from it.
The collars they've been awesome. We've really enjoyed having those so far. We just put them on the 4 Mile Creek herd a couple weeks ago, and cool one. We can use them for a lot of different things, right? But a cool one where I guess an experiment we're working on now is we can use the collars through the transport to figure out what the best move dates might be, tweak things here and there to keep them running good from after getting on a truck and getting back here, and then what kind of stresses that causes and stuff like that. So no, we enjoy using them and getting to see what they can do and how they can help you gain some efficiencies and keep your cows healthier.
So what efficiencies do you hope to be able to gain?
Herd health is a big one, where we can catch sick cows a lot sooner. It prints out every cow is tracked on her day-to-day baseline, and any deviations from that throws codes, and we can go check those cows out. So these cows might be not showing signs of having anything wrong, but if we can catch them and treat them a lot sooner, we can save a lot of trouble that way.
Yeah. And so, as you mentioned before, with having more pressure on the maternity area here, with calving in everything here, do you think that that's an area too, where just having some monitoring technology in addition to your really good crew of guys that have good cow sense, is that an asset to them and their efficiency to be able to handle the extra calvings?
Yeah, it takes a little bit off their plate in other areas.
Alta's been a great partner with us for many years, and now with this tool, it's going to allow us to manage cows a little differently. It's a way that we can manage the cows, a little bit from afar, but yet still have that. Got to still have that personal touch, and then being able to link the two sites now with the Nedap now is the big deal, and we can. We don't have to manage them separately. They're totally integrated and together. And yeah, going to be a lot of cool data that we can capture from the system and learn a lot about our herd. Knowing that those kind of tools are there to be able to grow in those ways, it's empowering. But it's and that's what we try to push. We can't keep doing things the way we've done them for the past 10 years. We gotta think differently.
Yeah.
And yeah, this will be a good tool for us.
Okay, so on that note, as you said, you got to think differently. Can't keep doing it the way you've been doing it for the last 10 years. So I'm going to push you for a moment to think 10 years ahead. What does Normie Lane look like to you, Josh, 10 years from now?
Yeah, physically here, this is the home farm. We obviously want to conserve this, this facility, this site. Adding more cows here, I'm not sure that's the answer. That's kind of where we're at next. What is the future of this, facility? What's the, this parlor is 25 years old now. It's starting to show its age. So what are we looking at here for, for longevity and to keep this the main site, if you will. But yeah, physically, I can't say for sure what it's going to look like in 10 years. I know that we're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to, potentially diversify. 10 years from now, there's going to be more family involved in the business. There's going to be more high-level employees. Can't say for sure where we're going to be, but I know we're going to grow. I know we're going to continue to be a viable dairy business, egg business in this area. And we're going to continue to, build relationships. And that's what we've, a big part of who we've been over the years and who we're going to continue to be.
Yeah. And, when you say that relationship piece, I hear your dad's voice. He was a master of relationships.
Yeah, he sure was.
And so you mentioned diversification. And so, Emmett, to you, diversification can mean a lot of different things to different people. What does it mean to you?
Who knows what this place is going to look like in 10 years. It's going to be more than this, going to be more than 4 Mile Creek and Normie Lane at that point. What that will be, I'm not sure. A cool small one we're doing now is adding some beef cows. I'm not saying that's going to be the next greatest revenue stream to take the place of the dairy cows, but something fun we're gonna try, and it allows you to just be a little bit more active in the community and kind of tell your story. And so, main goal is burning up feed refusal that we don't have anywhere else to go with. So the goal is to do 30, 40 of them a year and sell direct to consumer in the community. And so that'll be a fun trial. This year will be the first year of that. But as far as what's next, I'm not sure. We keep, you got to keep evolving to create more opportunities. Next generation, other of my same generation, and people on our team, whatever that may be, is how can we create more opportunities for those people to level up as well.
I keep talking to the guys about that. We can't rest. We have to continue to grow. We gotta continue to bring up the next, the people behind us, people next to us, and we gotta continue to push the needle on growth, because I kind of alluded to it, but the more you grow, the bigger you get, the more responsibility, right? So
yeah,
making sure the people, everybody understands that and everybody's moving the same direction, is a big focus of mine now.
What's it going to take?
Just a lot of focus, a lot of intentionality, a lot of continued growth. We've done a really good job of listening to our vision, all the decisions we make, making sure everybody's on that same page with our vision. Our mission statement is we're always advancing our enterprises through passionate people, leading edge farming, relationships, and exceptional animal care. So it's, those are the 4 statements that we focus on. And the big one is relationships. Like you said, you can hear that in Jerry's voice, and that's a big part of my focus. And whether it's relationships within our small management team or the bigger team, neighbors, landowners, whatever it is, we always value that a lot. And it's a huge part of who we are.
So, all right. So same question over to you, Emmett. What's it going to take for that vision to continue to move forward?
That's a big question. I'm just an old farmer. Just remembering it, right? Always keeping it in the forefront of your mind and remembering why you're doing this. You talk a lot anytime you're doing, you have any goal or doing anything in life, knowing your why, I think, is pretty important, right? As to whatever you're chasing or whatever you're going after, is knowing why you're doing it. If you don't really know why you're doing it, it's kind of hard to figure out what decisions to make and how to go about it.
It's interesting. Like, if you could put your why into a couple of words, what's yours?
Yeah, another big question. The why for me, I guess my entire life I've felt, extremely blessed, more than you could even put into words, of to come into this spot where I've said before, I came into a life where all my passions and all the things I care about the most, whether that's, land, farming, the people, the family, whatever, I've had the opportunity to act on all my biggest passions in the world. And not a whole lot of people can say they've been fortunate enough to be in that spot. They say whoever to whom much is given, much is expected, and I've been given a tremendous amount, so that comes with a big responsibility as well. So uh, my why stems from a lot of that, how lucky I've been, and it's also a responsibility. Um, you've been blessed with this much, but if you don't do anything about it, that's kind of a waste. So it's all these things that I've been fortunate enough to grow up with and have the opportunity to work on. It's also a responsibility to make them even better, and to keep advancing them.
Wow. Emmett, you're how old?
23.
23. You said he's an old soul.
Yep,
Huh?
told you.
Oh. What's your why?
My why is probably resiliency and legacy. You start thinking about that word. It's a big word. It's a big topic, but from where we've come, some of the struggles that we've been through. I just talking about my leadership style a little bit. I'd say it's a resilient style. I'm not going to be the loudest leader. Not going to be the quickest to make a decision or make a off the cuff comment or things like that. But in the long run, I feel that I'm going to outlast anything that's put in front of me. But then, the whole legacy piece, what we've, like Emmett alluded to, what we've come from, what we have here, what we've started, what's in front of us, the responsibility of having that legacy and carrying that on is just, it's great. And it can be overwhelming, but it's a good overwhelming.
Yeah. And like Emmett said, to those who are given much, much is expected, right?
Yep.
Yeah. What a pair you guys are, huh? So when you think about your career as dairyman, what was the best advice anyone ever gave you?
It's hard to pinpoint any one thing, I guess, but overall, I'd say I always come back to people in relationships. So it's I think one of the things that Dad always taught me was to never miss an opportunity to invest in someone. So that's continues to be the backbone, I think, of who we are and the way I look at life.
So Emmett, as a young man, but wise and old in your soul, best advice you've received?
Yeah, so much. I mean, like I said before, I've been so fortunate to have so many amazing role models. The one that I'll echo from Grandpa that he said once in a podcast with Chris Barron, he ended it with, always be humble and kind, among some other things. But that can kind of help a lot. Something I've always tried to be is, your attitude is can be far more important than many people believe, and always being nice, always thinking about other people, and another one being you can learn for every opportunity and for every person as well. So those two things are some of the ones that I always remember and always think about, and keep learning and keep being humble and kind.
Oh, so the two of you have been blessed with wisdom that's been poured into you. But as we wrap up our conversation today, I want to give you the opportunity to pay it back. So, Josh, what's the wisdom that you wish to instill? If you could pay it back and give a solid piece of advice to Emmet and other young dairy producers that are coming into their own career in this industry, their own lifetime in this industry, what would you say?
For young people in the next generation, there's a ton of opportunity. I'd say, you gotta, I'd say be yourself, but be aggressive. You got to put yourself in a position to be ready for opportunities. This business has been built. I'm third generation, so there was a lot of mistakes that were made before me, some mistakes that I've made, but, I sometimes feel that we can even be a little bit more aggressive and make some more mistakes and learn from them. and it's a cliche as well, but don't be afraid to make mistakes.
All right. Now to the young man. I want you to think about your best advice that you would give to someone a couple years behind you.
Well, I don't know if I'm in too big of a spot to be giving anybody advice, but a big one for me was, you got to learn how to work with the people that are already there and the people that are way ahead of you, and take those opportunities to learn from them. Another thing would be like we talked about North Dakota, hesitant at first for sure. I'm kind of a homebody, but that was invaluable to me, and I would highly recommend that to anybody, is to get off and do something else first. There's tons to learn. Lastly, on a more personal side, is how the importance of only worrying about what you can control. It's a big deal coming in for someone in my position to try to fill some very big shoes before me, and so trying to control what you can control, and don't spend too much time worrying about the rest of it.
Yeah. Well, that's some good, solid advice from both of you. Anything else you guys would like to add?
I guess just, from my perspective, it's really exciting. I wake up every day excited to be part of this industry and part of the business that we are. And I'm excited because there's just so much opportunity. Yeah, I'm just blessed every day to be part of it and to be able to help others, get there too.
Yeah. And Emmett, final thoughts from you?
Yeah, I'm having a blast. It's been a ton of fun so far, and I can't wait to see where it's going to go. Anybody in my shoes, don't forget to be thankful and remember that I'm in a spot that I am because of the people before me and the people that worked 18-hour days and milked 3 times a day and did a lot of things that I'm doing different things now, but that probably worked a lot harder than I did. So that way, that Dad and I can sit down on a Monday and have an interview with you guys. So always remember to be thankful for those people, and then remember how lucky you are to be in the spot that you are.
Humble and kind, huh? Aw. Well, thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Peggy.
You just heard from Josh Meissner and Emmett Meissner from Normie Lane Farms in Chile, Wisconsin, here on the Up-Level Dairy Podcast. I'm Peggy Coffeen, and until next time, keep on growing, keep on learning, and up-leveling your dairy. This episode is powered by Nedap. Nedap is future-proofing dairy farms by revolutionizing cow-side care through technologies and activity monitoring, cow locating, milk metering, and identification.